bless him. But no,
I'm thinking of the first speech that he has when he's groveling. It's not his first grovel.
Oh yeah,
yeah, you can tell this is not your first grovel.
Yeah, yeah, that was it's a really strange thing when you do scenes like that, because obviously all the background artists are the extras, if you like, are Hungarian, and so a lot of them don't really speak very good English, and so they can't really tell what you're talking about, and so all those places where you think you're going to get a reaction, you kind of don't get a reaction. And they have, we have to have, we had the brilliant assistant directors who were Hungarian, who would sort of, you'd see them holding the script and like explaining it to everybody in Hungarian, and then doing bits in English and going, I love tits. And then they go, ha, 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 to encourage everybody to kind of laugh. And that was a really fun shoot day. It was really cold. The ground was frozen that day. So we had to have knee pads on, because once we came round the corner, the mud was rock solid. And we probably did it, I'm trying to think how many times I did it, maybe 12 times. And I thought there was only one, it was kind of the first big performative thing that I'd done on the show. And also it was like in front of the other cast members, who by this point I was still kind of getting to know. So I thought I'm going to be this could be really, really embarrassing. And I thought, well, the only thing I can really do is just properly go for it and leave it all on the field. Yeah. So I kind of went for it in rehearsals, and it kind of ended up coming out pretty good. And it was really fun. But we had that on that scene, we're being pelted at the beginning of the scene with food. And they'd given the extras almost like, I think, is it Cheetos? Like we have Wotsits, but like kind of like corn puffs to throw at us. Yeah. And they'd given them red cabbage leaves to throw. Okay. And so we were getting pelted with red cabbage leaves, and they were throwing mud at us, and they were throwing corn puffs. And I hadn't really worked with Alex, who plays Utrecht, that much by this point. He can be quite an intense guy. He said to me, like, we're too clean, like put mud on me. And I go, okay. And he starts grabbing these handfuls of mud and like rubbing them on my clothes and like on my face. And I'm like, oh, okay, I mean, maybe we should kind of check with costume and makeup. And he's like, no. So he starts rubbing mud on me. So I kind of rubbed some mud on him. And it was only afterwards that I kind of smelt my hands, is that we had huge amounts of livestock on that set. And it was like the shit of 1,000 animals that we'd rubbed all over one another. And so the scene had this kind of peculiar feel to it already. And then you factor in that all these people are throwing food at us, and they were throwing food at us, and they'd been given, as I say, light things to throw. And as part of the set dressing, there were these big baskets of apples, and some bright spark in the some of the kind of more industrious background artists decided that they were going to grab the apples and start throwing apples. Now, if you get hit by an apple, you really know you've been hit by an apple. And there was a bit that stayed in the show where this little kid, ran up behind us. And I kind of looked over my shoulder and saw him. And as hard as he could, he threw an apple, and it whacked Alex on the back of the head. And Alex turned around and went, "Ah!" and like shouted at him. And it stayed in the show.
Yeah, that wasn't what you're talking about.
Yeah, that wasn't scripted.
When he screamed at the crowd?
When he shouts, when Alex shouts, wasn't scripted, because he got whacked in the back of the head by this like 8-year-old.
It's like a genuine like rage moment, like when you stub your toe. It's just like,
He was furious. And Levente, the stunt coordinator, ran in at the end of the take. They called cut, and this stunt coordinator ran in. And I speak a little bit of Hungarian. I kind of picked a bit up while I was there. And he was the calmest man, Levente. I never saw him raise his voice. I never saw him get cross, apart from this one time where Alex had this apple lobbed at the back of his head, and he ran in, and I could hear him shouting in Hungarian. And the only bit I understood was him going, "Nem alma," which just means no apples. And it really... But kind of Alex
took out the star of the show.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Alex loves all that kind of stuff, though. I mean, like Alex is really Alex comes from like a school of working where like he really needs to feel it, and he really wants to kind of inhabit the character. So I mean, I don't think it annoyed him as him. He just kind of he used it, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean that works well for that scene where he stands up after that thing and everyone's like, kiss the cross, and he's he looks so pissed off.
Yeah,
you know.
I mean, he'd got a lump coming. No wonder he was pissed.
Yeah, that's an awesome story.